Welcome to Ad Spend Secrets. My name's Luke Smith. In today's episode, we are talking to Ryan Martin. Ryan runs an agency in Australia called Remarkable Digital. He specializes in SEO for business, and I know this is a Ad Spend Secrets advertising podcast, but you can't get the most out of advertising without looking at the holistic landscape, and part of that is SEO. Ryan also runs a podcast called E-commerce Australia. He's got a really great understanding of all things e-commerce, what's working today in the digital landscape. He speaks to software owners, agency owners, brand owners, lots of e-commerce businesses daily and weekly. And so I think it's going to be a great episode digging into SEO and how it can help grow your business. So cool. Ryan, I want to get you on to talk SEO and all things digital, really, because I know that you've got the podcast and you speak to agency owners, software, builders and owners, brand owners, and everyone in and around the ecom space. So you'd be a wealth of knowledge. And I know you're running your agency, Remarkable Digital, and just wanted to get a feel for what's going on out there in your world and, dig into SEO specifically. So thanks for joining.
Fantastic, mate. I'm very excited to be a guest on the podcast as opposed to being the host. And mate, looking forward to sharing some SEO insights and demystifying the world of SEO and talking all things e-commerce, which is something that I love as well.
Awesome. If you haven't checked out Ryan's podcast, E-commerce Australia, it's a big one. Lots of great guests on, so go and give it a listen. I'd love to find out more specifically about SEO. Can we start maybe at the top? And this will benefit me a lot. What is SEO? I'm a bit of a paid ads guy, so it'd be good to get the take on the other side.
Yeah, nice, mate. Well, SEO, obviously, most people know, probably stands for search engine optimization. And whilst most people relate this to Google specifically, it's actually anything really. If you think about what it actually stands for, search engines can be Google, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, ChatGPT. Not quite a search engine, but people are searching on there. So I guess the definition, you could call that a search engine. They're all examples of where people search. So it's definitely wider ranging than just Google. What is SEO? There's generally three buckets, which is probably easier to explain. So you've got on-page SEO, you've got off-page SEO, and you've got technical SEO. Do you know the differences, mate, or should I go into them?
Give us a rundown, yeah. And I think maybe from an ecom perspective, it's probably most beneficial for your audience and also people that might be listening.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah, we can dive into that sort of e-commerce and the differences between that a little bit later. But I think generally speaking, SEO, you've got your on-page, so anything that's to do with sort of user experience, copywriting, even your on-page, like your heading tags, is one that I see a lot of e-commerce brands not do well. It's having their right H1s, H2s, H3s in place, so you can actually tell Google what this page is about and what's the most important thing to know about this page. So you've got your on-page, you've got your off-page, which is more your backlinking and you're building authority to the site, so getting other websites with high authority and high traffic to link back to yours to give you that link juice. And then you've got your technical SEO, which is all around updating anything in the back end, really, meta descriptions, meta titles, that sort of thing. So there's three components of SEO, but essentially we just want to be able to be found when people are searching for your products.
It's always good to be found, but is there a time where you think it would work best for a business? Is it something that new Shopify stores, for example, should focus on, or is it once they're more established? What's your thoughts on sort of timings and what might come first in the marketing mix, I guess?
Yeah, great question, mate. Great question. You're asking an SEO guy, so I would say straight away. But in all seriousness, it does take time, right? So you may need to do some paid ads to start with to get some sales through the door. Like you could start SEO, and if you're a brand new business, you're not really going to see any return on investment. This is a very general term, but I would say you're not going to see much of a return within the first 3 to 4 months. If you're a brand new domain, you're a brand new website, it's going to take a little bit of time to build authority and trust. So if you look at it from Google's perspective, let's say give me an example of an e-commerce brand. Let's say men's athletic run shorts, right? Just because I'm thinking of buying some run shorts at the moment. If you're new to the market in selling run shorts, is Google going to favor you as a brand new business who it knows nothing about, or is it going to favor New Balance or Nike, who have been there 10 years, who have been doing SEO for a long period of time, who have built authority, who have built so much credibility in that space? So when we're thinking SEO, we're thinking about building credibility first with Google and then secondly with our users. So it does take time. I understand that if you're starting out and you don't have a huge budget, then maybe starting with some paid to get some money through the door, find out some keywords, what keywords convert well from a paid perspective, and then use those to help form a bit of an SEO strategy.
Got you. So they can work together in a way that, they can sort of plug each other's holes, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah. It's all about dominating that search engine results page, right? So obviously that results page is changing a lot, and if it was up to Google, it would all just be paid ads, which would make your life easy, mate, I guess. But yeah, absolutely. When it comes to a combined strategy, SEO plus Google ads, it's sort of 1 + 1 = 3. You establish dominance, you establish trust. You've got you're at the top of the Google ads, you're at the top of the organic listings. You're set to sort of win that category. So absolutely, I would definitely recommend you do both if you have the budget to do so.
One of the questions I get a lot actually from an ad side, and I think it feeds into SEO, is should we be paying for brand search? So, if Remarkable Digital, for example, was an ecom store, would you be paying for that term on Google? From an SEO perspective, is it easy to get that ranking? Does it happen straight away, or do you have to put sort of a lot of work in the back end to get even brand ranking?
No, you should be able to be found for your brand fairly quickly. Again, it's probably just having that on page and the technical SEO set up correctly from the start. It might take, if you're brand new, it might take you a couple of months to kind of get that recognition. But if people are searching for the exact URL that you have, and that's your brand terms, then you should be ranked there fairly quickly for that, I would say. Where we see like branded traffic, if I look at e-commerce businesses that are a little bit more mature and they've got a really high degree of branded traffic and not a lot of non-branded traffic, organic traffic to their website, I get incredibly excited because it means that they've been working so hard on their brand. They've been really building like brand building, which is so important. Now we just need to top that off with some non-branded keyword search. And as an SEO agency owner, that's really where you earn your money in that non-branded search. I would think if you're using an SEO agency and they're claiming that they've grown your business by 30 or 40%, and you look at it and most of it is branded search, then I would call bullshit on that. Hopefully we're allowed to swear on this podcast.
Yeah,
but non-branded search is where SEO agencies should really be growing your business, because that's new people, new eyeballs that aren't aware of your brand, but they are looking for the services or the products that you have.
Right. And then if you're rolling out that SEO strategy for non-brand and, clients wanting to know how it's progressing, what are the key marks? I mean, what would they be needing to see to show progression or improvements there?
Great question. Awesome question. I think there are many different ways. I mean, obviously you want to see your organic search in, Google Analytics. You want to see that conversion rate going up. You want to see the return on investment and the conversion for your organic search. But I would highly recommend all e-commerce businesses have Google Search Console set up, because that is the closest source of truth that you can get to actually seeing what pages are working, what queries you're being found for, how many links you've got, your positions, all that sort of thing. And, the main metrics, the leading metric is kind of impressions, even though I don't like that as a metric. And, if someone's saying that they grew your impressions, well, so what? But if your impressions are starting to skyrocket, that means that Google is starting to index a lot of your pages. And as long as you keep working at it, clicks, website traffic and clicks will come. So impressions are the first metric that you'll see generally start to rise. And then you just want to see clicks to the website. You want to see click-through rate improving as well. But ultimately, keyword rankings and pages that you want to be found for, ranking in those top 3 search results is what's going to be the big difference for your e-commerce store.
Right. I can imagine some stores would have a lot of pages, What are you trying to rank and get shown? Is it product pages or is it collection page? I mean, is there a focus that people should be trying to rank?
Yeah, another great question, mate. It all depends on the business and what they're after. I think for e-commerce, particularly, we want collection pages and product pages to be ranking, but obviously it depends on the user intent, which is one of the big things with SEO. So you want to try and match up user intent with serving the page that's going to answer that question the best. So if it's let's use the running shorts as another analogy whilst I think on the run here. If you're looking for best running shorts 2024, you want to know what is out there, and you want the latest and greatest running shorts. That intent is not really commercial intent; it's more informational intent as a keyword. Google would classify that as informational. So ideally, if you're selling running shorts, you want a blog or you want a page that answers, what are the best running shorts in 2024 and what people should be looking out for, and then have an internal link from that blog back to your collections page, which sells running shorts. So we're trying to marry up user intent. What is the user actually wanting to find when they're searching for this query? And then serve them the most appropriate page. And that's what Google's trying to do as well.
And so you're kind of building it for the user. Is that right? I mean, are you mostly focusing on building these pages for the user or for, the bots and Google crawlers? Or is it a bit of both?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely both. Google, the best way to explain Google is probably like EEAT is the principle that the algorithm sort of uses. So experience, expertise, authority, and trust. So older SEO tactics back in the day, you could put, best running shorts on your homepage or collections page or whatever page you want ranked for that keyword, 28 times and keyword stuff it and do some real black hat tactics. It just doesn't work anymore. Google is much more, I guess, in tuned and mature now to understand that that's just complete spam, and you can't trick the algorithm or the Google crawl anymore. So to answer your question, you want to be really focused on user intent and giving that user the best experience possible, answer their question in the quickest amount of time, and Google will reward you with that more often than not. So I would think more about the user, and that's why conversion rate optimization and SEO sort of go hand in hand, because what we ultimately want to do is make it really simple for the user, give them the best experience on your website, make sure the website loads nice and quick, make sure it's got all the questions that you get asked on the collections pages or the product pages, and just make it a really nice experience, and don't try and trick the user into sort of stumbling across your website, because it just doesn't convert that way.
Yeah, I mean, when you start leaning into CRO, I can start to see how that would piece together, work nicely with ads as well. So really, it does kind of fit in as one slice of a bigger pie, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about, if you can know your customer, and I know I do talk a lot about this on my podcast, but those e-commerce brands that know their customer the best and the most intimate sort of level of detail, the better, because you can create content around that. You can create frequently asked questions around that. Their what are they trying to weigh up? Is it different features or different price points? The better you know your customer, the more accurate you can then serve them on the collections pages, on your blogs, on your homepage. So CRO is huge for SEO. We want that user to come to your website, find your website firstly, have a really good experience, spend a bit of time on your website, because they're all green flags for Google. It then gives Google the trust to go, you know what, we sent 100 people to this collections page and they all converted, or they spent 4 minutes on the page consuming the content. They really had a good experience, and that's what will build trust with Google and get you up higher up the rankings, or one of the factors anyway.
Yeah, and I've heard some frustrations out there there's mostly SEO friends running service-based business accounts, so it's sort of lead gen, but algorithm changes. Can you speak to that from an SEO perspective? Is there anything that's recently happened or coming up that might be causing you some strife?
Yeah. There's always algorithm updates, and Google There's some big ones obviously that are sort of spoken about a lot in that SEO language, but they do update their algorithm a lot more than most people are aware. It just gets back to doing the right thing by your user and doing the right thing by Google. So, what we're seeing a lot of the moment is there's big traffic drop-offs. If people have been using too much AI, they're starting to get penalized. Which you've got to go back to that EAT principle. So experience, how does your website showcase the amount of experience that you have? Are you actually an expert in the product that you're selling? Or at least can you show that your website shows expertise in that area? Experience, so social proof, reviews, testimonials, UGC, all sort of fits within that. Authority, again, creating nice content around, your products and making sure that people know how to use them correctly and building that authority. And then trust kind of encompasses all of that. So can Google trust your website? Does it load quick? Can we trust that your users are going to have a good experience? So there's a lot of algorithm changes. They're always going to come and go. It's hard to predict, the next one. But what I would say is if you're following best practices, if you're writing great content, if it's authentic, if it's not generated by AI, then you're going to be well placed. And that same goes with link building as well. Back maybe 10 years ago or even maybe 5 years ago, you could get away with, using an SEO agency that would just build a whole heap of bad backlinks and work more on a quantity rather than a quality. Whereas nowadays, you just want good quality, authoritative backlinks that make sense to Google. And if you follow those principles, you're not going to go too far wrong. There are going to be little updates and drops, but if you play a long game, and SEO is a long game, then you'll be fine in the long run.
I've actually seen that pop up in some reports I've been sent from clients, past and present. They've worked with an SEO agency and they're getting all of these backlinks, and I think it's just them getting pushed out across irrelevant directories and basically anything that will point back to the site. Is that can that get you penalized? Like, can that work against you rather than for you?
Yeah, absolutely it can. Yeah, there's a lot of sort of toxic backlinks. There's PBNs, so certain sort of link farms or networks that some agencies use, and it depends on if you're using an agency and they've sort of acquired a lot of these low quality backlinks. It just hurts you in the long run. It doesn't help anyone. It certainly doesn't help your traffic. It doesn't help build authority. Maybe once upon a time it used to, but I would steer clear of that in a heartbeat. If someone's promising you, 200, 300 backlinks for, I don't know, $500, $1,000, $1,500 a month, it's too good to be true. I would focus on 2, 3, 4 really good quality links. Yes, you may have to pay a little bit more of a premium for those links, but it'd be worthwhile just building good, authentic content over a long period of time. It's the best way the best analogy I've found is, it's just like if you're wanting to get in the best shape of your life, there's 2 ways you can do it, right? You can take some diet pills, or you can jump on a strict kind of keto diet or whatever it is, and it might last for a few weeks. But if you want to grow consistently, or if you want to be in shape consistently over a long period of time, SEO is just like eating your vegetables, healthy eating, going to the gym, doing all the right things. It takes time, but over the space of 5 years, your health will never be better. And SEO is much the same.
Yeah, I think you just don't want to be in a place where if you're running ads and you pause them, you're left with 0 sales. And I think a lot of brands get themselves into that trap where they start to get a fair amount of traction through ads. And I'm an ads person, so I'm fairly biased, but I don't think they should be putting all their eggs in that basket, so they shut them off and there's nothing. It's not a nice place to be.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I'm conscious that I'm on a paid advertising podcast here, talking all about paid, but 100%, and it's just something that I see so much. People go, should we be doing? Or there seems to be a bit of an addiction to paid at the moment, and I'm not exactly sure why. I guess it's immediate. But if we look at the statistics, 29.7% of people now use ad blockers in Australia, which is a report published on the 31st of July this year, which I can send that through to you. It's getting harder to attribute conversions. ChatGPT doesn't show ads at all yet. Maybe that will change. And not to mention SEO is the most trusted form of traffic. It's more engaging. They spend more time on your site. They're buying as opposed to being sold to. And, Google doesn't really care about how much you've spent on ads. They don't say, Luke, you've been a great client for us and you've spent 100,000 on ads this year, even though you've paused them. We're still going to show you at the top just because we value the relationship. Google doesn't give a stuff about that. So as soon as you stop bidding on those ads, you're gone. Whereas SEO, all the work that you've done will still be there. And even if you pause it for a month, 2 months, it's not going to drop off that quickly, in 99% of the cases. So another thing to consider, and I know I'm selling SEO pretty hard here, but SEO is earned traffic, so it can't be purchased. So when you're looking to sell your business, if someone's wanting to get into your space, do they start their own or do they buy yours? If you've got no organic traffic, if you've got no SEO presence, it's much easier for them to replicate the exact strategy that you do if they've got a bigger budget. And, straight away they're in business. Where if you've got a really strong SEO presence, it's going to be more valuable when you exit, not to mention more profitable, which then gives you a better multiple of, when it comes time to sell and exit the business as well.
That's a massive point. I think, having that earned traffic that's a big win. I was just thinking back to the Google piece. If they did anything around the advertising side and contacting you and getting your ranking, all they really want to do is call you up maybe once a week, once a fortnight, and try and get you to tick through the optimizations in the account, get you to spend more, really. Their goal is to get you to spend more. So if you can spend less using SEO or a combination, I think that's a win.
Yeah, exactly. And the more profitable you are, then the more you have to then tip into Google ads and to Meta ads and TikTok ads or whatever else it is. I think the magic number from what I've seen and what I've interviewed across all the e-commerce businesses that we've had on my podcast this year is around that 30% mark. So if you have 30% of organic traffic, which is SEO related, that's super profitable for you, right? And then if you have 40% coming from direct or email, so your database is super important, that's 70% of traffic that you've either earned or owned. That gives you that last 30% to really ramp up and ramp down and try some things and test some things from a paid strategy viewpoint. And, the brands that do the best, they have all three buckets really firing. If you're just relying on one form of advertising, whether it's just SEO or just PPC or just email, you're leaving a lot of dollars on the table.
Yeah, I mean, we look at blended metrics. I know you would look at similar sort of numbers, but we do notice when a client's really strong in SEO, whether it be or organic, social, and SEO or SEO specifically, just the marketing efficiency just really improves because, as you said, you get that brand presence is a little stronger. Maybe they're coming through generic, but they might have seen something somewhere else. There's just those extra touch points. So I think overall returns, if you can get all these pieces in place, and like you said, 70%, if that was coming through non-paid, geez, I think that would change a lot of businesses' perspectives on growth.
Yeah, exactly. And SEO is a bit like the sort of the ugly stepsister or whatever you want to call it. Sometimes in the corner, it's not often understood. It's a little bit hard to sort of justify an ROI within the first 3 months. And so it often gets overlooked, but it's such a valuable part of your business if you do it right. The problem is, I think, with some brands is they either get sold to by an agency who's trying to sell them on, best case scenario, and they get burnt that way, or they go too cheap, think that they're getting the same service from a $1,000 provider as they would be for a $4,000 provider, and it doesn't work for them as well. So, the key to good quality SEO is just partnering with a good quality SEO agency, not the cheapest, not the one that sells you the best projections. It's the most honest one, which is bloody hard to find sometimes because there's some good salespeople out there in that digital landscape.
Yeah, I mean, transparency is always a bit of a sticking point, and even from an ad side, lack of communication, lack of tracking, lack of reporting coming through. I'm sure it's the same with SEO, but I think just keeping an eye on the links, like you've said, and keeping those links being high quality, getting good quality content on the site, building for your actual customer avatar and keeping them in mind, and not doing too much black hat stuff. I've heard stories of people doing, they do the keyword stuffing, I think it is, but they actually just make the text white back in the day on the actual website page, so it doesn't look even read like it's an actual keyword, but they're all over the shop.
Yeah, exactly. That just doesn't fly. It just doesn't work anymore. But you're right. I think like I've spent a lot of time in agency land now, and I would say 80% of the people that I have an initial discovery call with have said, look, we've been burnt by agencies before, and we're a little bit nervous about it. And I completely understand. I completely get it. The key to winning with an agency is just finding an agency. Although it sounds a little bit soft and fluffy, it's just finding an agency that genuinely cares. Like, attitude is everything. And some of the agency owners have so much ego, like it's frightening, to be honest. If they're busy showing you how good their office is, or showing you the fact that they got beer taps, and it's like it's more about them than it is about you. So the biggest tip I can give people listening to this podcast around how to have a successful partnership with an agency is just take your time. Like, if you're not sure about it, have another meeting with them. Just don't rush into it. And really, you want to be meeting with the people who are actually doing the technical work on your campaign. So another trap you'll fall into, or some people fall into that I've seen, is salespeople will come to you and they'll sell you the world, right? They'll give you these fantastic projections and all looks great, and it's going to be wonderful. And then as soon as you sign that document, you get handed over to a junior account manager. He or she might be 22, 23, very green. They don't really understand business. They're just there to manage the accounts, and they're getting told what to say by the technical people who you can't get access to. So my biggest tip would be make sure that the people who are technically working on your website are in that meeting initially. And instead of having one meeting and signing, have 2 meetings or have 3 meetings. Just get to understand the people that you're going to be working with, because it is a professional partnership, and you want to make sure that the people genuinely care, because that's, and it's not just my agency. There's some really good SEO agencies out there that genuinely care. They do really, really good work. And so I would pay a little bit more to work with those agency providers than the ones that are doing you a deal and are a little bit slick. I would avoid them.
Yeah, and I think aligning on something long term too, like you said, SEO, it takes a little bit of time. So there's no point looking for something short term if you're looking for an agency to help with something like SEO or even CRO. These things are not a slow burn, but they do, as you said, take a bit of time to kick in. So if people were looking for an agency, Ryan, how would they find you?
Sorry, mate. Can I just touch on one more thing there?
Yeah, of course.
I think the third thing too is to specialize as well. So, the gap is getting so wide in digital at the moment. It's simply impossible to be across everything. Now, some of those bigger agencies, they do have certain, teams that work on social and work on SEO, that sort of thing. I think the best operators just do one thing, they do it really well. That's why we've decided to purely focus on e-commerce SEO, because the agencies that do one thing and do it well, they've got the right people on board. They've got absolute A players on board. They've got systems that are best for reporting, and they set up and they know what works because they're in it every day. And I think the generalist agencies are getting absolutely smashed because their performance isn't up to scratch, because they've got to stay across so much, 2 years ago it was Meta, right? It was just Facebook ads and Google ads. And now it's TikTok and TikTok ads, and who knows what the next change will be. Organic socials coming back. You've got YouTube. There's so much. It's just so hard for a generalist agency to be better than a specialized agency. So that would be another one. And another tip as well, work with specialists.
Yeah. I mean, just from an ad side, there's so much moving and happening in the ad platforms. I can't imagine also trying to keep up with everything happening in SEO and the algorithm changes that seem to be happening monthly, and all of this AI generative search stuff, I think, is going to be a big change. So I think that's a great shout, getting someone specialized. How can people find you, Ryan? What's the best way to get in touch? And you want to share a bit about the podcast as well?
Yeah, mate, absolutely. Yeah, so I've been doing the E-commerce Australia podcast for coming up to 3.5 years now, and I absolutely love it. Like we have, what I love the most is like finding those diamonds in the rough. So one of the things that when I started the podcast, you want some big names on, and you want to get to chat to them and get their thoughts. But what I actually find is there's some really, really good operators who don't post that much on LinkedIn, or they're a little bit hidden, but they've got so much to say and they've got so much knowledge. And one of the things I love about the podcast and interviewing those sorts of people is when you give them a platform, like the amount of knowledge that comes out is just incredible, and how generous they are with their advice. So that's one thing I love about the podcast. But yeah, you can search for E-commerce Australia on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you kind of listen to your podcast. I think they're the main two. YouTube as well. Super. I love hearing questions from listeners. I'm always trying to find better ways to be more engaging and make it a two-way conversation. Sometimes podcasts can be a little bit one way. You talk and you record and you don't hear a lot back, and then you go to some industry events and people come up to you and say that they listen to the podcast. So you're like, okay, somebody's listening, which is nice. But yeah, 2025, I'm going to do a lot more, get a lot more episodes published. I'm going to try and do a few more live episodes. I'm going to do a few more events. But yeah, it's something that I love. I love talking about e-commerce. I love, getting a comment from a listener who says you've been following and applying some of the methods to you that you've mentioned on the podcast and has generated some great results. So yeah, I really love that community, and the e-commerce community is really welcoming and really genuine. So, and I think, we all want retail and e-commerce to do well.
Yeah, 100%. If you haven't followed or listened to the podcast, definitely take a look. It is awesome. It's good to have you on the other side of the podcast just today. And if you haven't checked out Ryan's website, take a look at remarkabledigital.com.au if you're in search of a specific SEO agency, someone that can really look into and help your business. Ryan, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think they should listen to the Luke Smith podcast episode. I can't remember what number it was, mate, but give that one a listen back. And as I'm happy to sort of conduct some initial audits for anyone out there. Usually the most common thing I find is those H1s and H2s aren't set up correctly. Therefore, Google's not indexing and reading your best collection pages, not reading them correctly. And that is what's sort of holding a lot of e-commerce businesses back from what I'm seeing at the moment. But as I said, SEO in conjunction with PPC is an absolute winner, and something that all e-commerce brands should be doing if they're serious about growing their e-commerce business. Mate, it's been awesome to chat. Sorry, I probably haven't asked you too many questions back your way, but I get a bit passionate about SEO. But yeah, thanks again for having me on, and always happy to hear from anyone.
No worries. I think we'll leave it at that, and I think everyone's going to go check their H1 tags, and if they're a mess, give Ryan a call.
Thank you, mate.